So the next presentation is about mathematics and critical thinking in the AI era, rethinking classroom practices. So here is the presenter. I'm not sure that I will pronounce correctly, so you can present yourself, please, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Sérgio Correia, and I come from Portugal, city halfway vertically near the border with Spain. But first of all, let me thank you for this event. It's a pleasure to be back here in the beautiful city of Maribor. And thank you to our hosts, Maya and Bastian, for organizing this event. So, allow me also to mention that this work was done under the umbrella of the AI Enable project. I won't go with further details. You already know them. And, well, we know that students use ChatGPT. So if we as teachers aren't using, something is wrong. Because the student shouldn't be ahead, although it's normal. The dynamics of the student is much quicker than the dynamics of the teacher, for obvious reasons. But we should be aware, and we should try to keep up. And mathematics, usually in Portugal, and I think it will be the same almost everywhere, is the one subject that students love in the opposite way. It's difficult, usually, although I think for technological fields it will be easier, but still is one of the subjects that we should and we need to pay special attention. And mathematics should also be rethink. We cannot. When I was a student, my teacher of mathematics would come to the room, would write a bunch of theorems, would prove all of them, and we would write it down. We cannot teach mathematics like this anymore. It won't work. We can try it, we will fail most of the class. That's a fact. So I'm not going to go further. I will consider it as a fact. So that's what motivated us for choosing here to apply our theoretical framework of the project here in mathematics. Now, we know that students rely on large language models, but they rely at the point that for our students, most of our students, their large language model answer will be the ground truth. As a teacher who hasn't already tried to be dared by a student saying that you are wrong because the model says that, it will be normal. The teacher is wrong, and the language model is right. So we need to address this situation. But it's also our fault, because until today, we have trained our students that when it comes to machinery, the machine is right. But what was the machinery until a few years ago? I don't know, a calculator? We never dare to question the results that you get from a calculator. So why now our language model should be wrong? It's a machine. So why do we question a machine? But we need to And this is something that we must take to our classroom. This is something that we have to show our students that the machine is wrong. I teach computer architectures, digital system, industrial informatics. ChatGPT would fail all my classes. It's a fact. Why? ChatGPT is very good with general information, is very bad with specific information. I teach languages and programming styles that are not common. So ChatGPT answers it wrong. It would fail. And I always try to put this in my classroom. I do the standard student behavior. Copy the question, paste the answer to ChatGPT, press enter. And we need to show that the answers, in my case, are wrong, most of the times, but when they are not wrong, that we should question them, that we should further ameliorate those answers. So, since critical thinking was always something that was in the classroom. Okay, this is not new. We are not talking about critical thinking and how to question things because of large language models. We are doing it from always. But the difference is that from which point do we start to question? And we needed to do it a step behind. We need to question the answer of the machine itself at this stage. So that students start the reasoning and students start to question and to analyze further the answer of the machinery itself. So I come to this question. Does machine think? And we could stay here the rest of the day arguing what is intelligence and so does it think or not. But I will take Alan Turing. Alan Turing was the first person, as we know today, that in fact questioned what if machine would think. And notice that this happened in 1950. Okay, as we had already the Industrial Revolution in the previous century, we knew what was a machine. Mostly this is after Second World War, so machines were planes and bombs falling around. But Alan Turing got into the spotlight because he is famous for having broke the encryption machine that the Germans used in their communications, the Enigma machine. And at that stage, the military were hiring academics to translate or try to break the code. But the code would change every day. At midnight, the code would change. And Alan Turing said, no, I'm not going to work with cryptography and trying to break codes. I will build a machine that will break the code. And this was done by this man. And I'm quoting Alan Turing because he proposed a method, an idea to answer the question, does machine think? He called it the imitation game. And it's the name of a really interesting movie. I advise if anyone hasn't seen. This is the story of Alan Turing during the war and after the war. And the imitation game, it was called by Alan Turing. Today we call it the Turing test. And the Turing test was very simple. We have a player, letter C here, that has some barrier in front of it, and he will have a discussion either with a machine or with a person. And if this person C cannot distinguish who is the machine, when he is talking with the machine or with the person, we would say, as proposed by Alan, that that machine was thinking, was intelligent. Okay? And I'm bringing this because is ChatGPT intelligent? Does ChatGPT think? Well, some say yes, some will say no. I will give you my personal answer. But ChatGPT wants to be very smart, of course. It's a company, it's a business, of course. ChatGPT states that the model has passed the Turing test. But if you go to details, it's not entirely true. The model has passed 33% of the attempts of passing the Turing test. And if you go to further details, and the young minds of tomorrow will forgive me, but most of the passes are with young people. I'm not judging, I'm just stating. It might be good, it might be bad, I don't know. I will say it again, ChatGPT with me, maybe I'm a bad person, would fail. Not intelligent. But, so no, I don't think machine thinks. We will get there. I don't know when, we will get there, but I don't think it happens today. What machine does, a machine interprets what we ask it. And it will search for the best possible answer. That is what is happening with language models. And where I'm going with this, it becomes then very important how we ask the questions. The context that we put. How do we phrase? Today, we call it prompt engineering. Beautiful word. So it's already a technology. It seems like already a science to know how we should question a language model. And this is what we must bring also to our classes. So when we are using, or we want, or we know that our students are using these tools to their work, their studies, we must make them understand first how to question, and then start interpreting and go from here to question, develop, and analyze, whatever the answer is. And it's not because we are using a computer, a very complex machinery, that the answer will be right. And it starts also with the question itself. And now I come to our paper. What we have done here, as I said, was to use ChatGPT in a class of statistics. And we wanted to put the language models in the classroom, framed in a statistics problem, and to promote the autonomy, the critical thinking, and the collaborative work of the students in the classroom. And then we would evaluate how everything went. Of course, we have risks. We already talked about it here. We have risks, we have opportunities. It's what it is. It's like this with everything in our lives. Okay, we always have a risk associated with anything that we do. I have a risk of being here today. I don't know, my plane can crash, a car can run over me. I don't know. There is risks. I can fall now for some reason. There is a risk of being alive, and there is a risk of using ChatGPT, but we cannot deny it just because it's a risk. I don't believe in that. Also, it wouldn't work anyway if we would consider, no, ChatGPT is forbidden in the university. Would it work? No, obviously not. No use to do that. So we have to train students, we have to train teachers to make use of these tools critically and, above all, ethically. Of course, okay. We know that as a teacher, when we should state that we use. Students, when they use it, they should state that it was used, and we should all be very clear about it. But not only from the part of the student, I think that it also comes from the side of the teacher. And if the teacher starts to put it in his class, and if the teacher starts to put, I don't know, in some exercises that most of the exercises was generated by ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever, it can come as an example also for the students to understand that this is the way. In this case, we had 2 sessions with the students, with 15 bachelor students. In the first student, we did some guided exploration of the tool. We supplied data for them to analyze. We supplied questions. We supplied guidance for the teachers. The purpose was to test hypotheses, to see p-values, confidence, and so, and to try to also create the collaboration. The problems were very simple, so we wanted to be focused on the tools, not the problem itself and the theoretical part of the problem. So very simple data, very simple problems for the students to test. And then we assess, obviously. We divided into 4 criteria. How the students dealt with the hypothesis formulation, how the students interpreted the results, how the students used AI, and how did the students collaborate. The collaborate part was very simple. The students were divided into groups, and if some group would be in trouble, it would be one person from another group that would help and that would interact with the group that would be in trouble, creating here some collaboration between them. And what we got was that in terms of the hypothesis formulation, most of the students were divided and classified in between an intermediate and an advanced advanced criteria. So in terms of interpretation of the results, we see that fewer students were classified as beginners, but I think that interesting part is that even, and now it comes to my mind, a question earlier about the sociological part and the lack of socialization of students and so, and we notice here that the criteria that was classified with few students as the beginning was the collaboration part. It means that even with an AI tool in front of them that could answer to everything in the world, the students collaborate. Okay. So that was the main conclusion. So we can strengthen critical thinking, we can enhance student autonomy, we can improve the understanding, in this case, of statistics. Obviously, we should focus that we are focusing on the student, but the teacher also needs a lot of support and needs a lot of training. Of course, it was already said previously, people that come for technological backgrounds, it's easier. And it's obvious why, because I'm a computer engineer. I've always dealt with this kind of technologies. It's easier to use and to very rapidly adapt. But when I see colleagues, and gladly we are in an environment, a rich environment, we have faculties, we have colleagues from arts, from social science, from education, and we easily see that teachers from arts, for example, I would say that are the most difficult teachers that still say, no, but no, I don't want this, I don't want that, because art will never be. Of course, they are right, but the tools are not only for producing art, are for producing reports, documents, and so. So it's not because we are afraid of being replaced by something that we judge shouldn't be, that we should deny. Anyway, these tools, and this is done with training, this is done showing people and showing to our colleagues that it's possible to do a lot of different things with this kind of tools. I will end up with further directions. Obviously, we could apply this to different educational levels, to different subjects, and the part of the assessment. I think that's the most challenging one, how to assess and how to keep this balance in between assessment by people and by tools. Obviously, the multiple choice answer is easy. We don't need AI for that. We have done that for many years in the past, even with old scanners to check where was the cross. It's not that kind of assessment that we are talking about, but obviously more complex type of answers. So thank you for the opportunity, and please feel free for any question.
Thank you for your presentation. So are there any questions from the public or online? No online. In the audience, maybe? If not, I would have one question. So do you believe that it's fully up to the teachers who can equip the students with artificial intelligence literacy competencies? And especially if you think about teachers from non-technical sciences, and if the answer is yes, so do you think that that would be efficient? And if we can trace this pace?
Well, first, I think it would depend much on the level of education, because depending on the level, students are more independent or not. But I believe that the teacher should control his classroom. So the teacher should know what is happening behind that table, in between the table and the student, and in the mind of the student. The teacher should control that. And if, I know it's tricky, but if you don't know the tools, if you are not aware of them, what their capability, so you don't know what your students are doing, and you lose the control. So it's difficult, it's more difficult, but that's why I think that these programs are very important. These projects, as we are showing today, are very important. Obviously, here we are framed in the context of inclusive education, but it was also said earlier, inclusiveness can be a lot of things. And And we should take these opportunities. The materials that are created under these projects are very useful to help students that are not so aware of the technologies. And we are talking about very simple courses, very simple materials, with 10 minutes lessons that we can provide and that are available today so that the teacher takes control of his classroom.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So, as you already mentioned, it's very important to have these projects so that we can trace this rapid development of this technology. So if there are not any other questions, then thank you very much.